Welcome to the Lunatics Live, the last episode for 2018.
And we are so looking to bring it in for this year and next year, looking forward to a big year. But last year, only in September, we celebrated the Newey Awards, which was fantastic, here at the Foghorn Brewhouse on King Street, Newcastle. And they've been fantastic supporters of ours. But what's on our program for today?
Well, tonight we're talking about influencers and all great things involved with digital technology, advertising, and the influencing of greatness.
Greatness, and what actually makes you stand out from all the rest of the chatter out there. Joining us is going to be Dan Farthing, who's the new project coordinator for Hunter If Project. We've got Tracy McKillicott, who's from new2u.com, and also we're going to be speaking with Brendan Sauer from Enigma. And they're going to be talking about what makes it important to be an influencer in this day and age.
Yeah, so stick with us. We're about to go live. And thanks again for celebrating with us 2018 finale.
Welcome to Lunatics Live, episode 16, here from the Foghorn Brewhouse in downtown Newcastle on King Street. And a fantastic place it is. Place is buzzing. Everyone's enjoying pre-Christmas, I guess, and having a good feed here on a Tuesday night. How are you, Olivia?
I'm wonderful. Thank you, Greg. Yes, welcome to our final episode of 2018. This evening we're talking about influencing in the digital space, which is very exciting. I'm quite excited about the conversations up ahead. Greg, do you want to introduce who our guests are?
Absolutely. So joining us today is going to be Dan Farthing. He's the new project coordinator for Hunter If Limited. Tracy McKillicott is the morning host of new2uw.com, and Brendan Swansborough is Group Account Director at Enigma. And we have a great show for you tonight. And we're going to be talking to those people about how brands are influencing people in the digital world.
Yeah, so what do you think that means, Greg? What does influencing mean to you?
Well, I mean, the big challenge now is that everyone out there can literally set themselves up to be a brand. And I guess that is the challenge, because some brands rock and some brands are just not worth it.
It's true. Some brands are just everywhere. Well, I think it's quite fun. It's quite fun of an idea of a topic to talk about, because brands are just such a big part of social life these days. And whether you're making a brand and you're wanting to sell that to the world, or whether you're advertising a brand, it's just a big part of who we are.
Well, in fact, you've actually just come back from Melbourne at the Screen Producers Association. They had 800 delegates talking about the history or the future of the Australian screen industry.
Yeah, it was wonderful. The Screen Producers Association have their big conference every year. This year, I think one of my favourite talking points for the conference was the influence of women in storytelling, and I think my favourite discussion there was the fact that women are having a voice, and we're getting louder on screens with things like Glow or Orange is the New Black. But then also, it's the next step in that evolution is for cultural diversity to really leap forward. So that was a really great thing. The big call out at SPA was to find stories that can really ring true, have authentic voices, and influence society with the truth.
And you're there at the cutting edge, because you've been part of the Ones to Watch,
yes,
which is a mentoring program to support emerging and even mid-career professionals as producers to tell those stories.
Yeah. So the Ones to Watch program from the Screen Producers Association is all about acknowledging producers who could be the next generation of storytellers and influencers in that storytelling space. So that was a delightful program to be a part of. And if you're watching, or if you're in the audience and you're an emerging producer making waves and looking for industry support, absolutely contact SPA and check it out.
Great, that was a plug.
Oh, well, it was great. You're one of 20 people nationally getting a helping hand.
Well, you're here at the Lunatics Live. We're coming to you live from the Foghorn Brewhouse. I'm Greg Hall, and with the lovely Olivia Ollie.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking about the influencers, but this cannot all happen without the tremendous support of our sponsors. So the Lunatic Society would like to thank the City of Newcastle, the Business Centre, Growthwise, the University of Newcastle. We'd also like to thank a big shout out to Bar TV, who are bringing this to you live right across the digital networks, the Production Hub, and Pitch Perfect Media. And I encourage everyone to check them out. So we'd also like to inform members that our AGM is actually happening on Saturday, the 8th of December, here at the Foghorn, naturally, at 1 p.m. And you can nominate for a position to be on the management committee by visiting our website, which is www.thelunaticsociety.com.au. And if you'd like to join our society, please go to our website. It's only $50. All the money goes into producing Lunatics Live, Puddling Process podcast, and the Newey Awards.
Yeah, we do encourage new members to the Lunatic Society and to be involved in the AGM. We're loving new voices to come up and be a part of the group and help us structure the 2019 calendar.
Yeah, and so just on the podcasting front, I'd like you to check out the Puddling Process on iTunes. And I actually had the good chance to interview James McLaughlin, who's the guru of innovation, or how the societies and communities can innovate. It was a really great chat, and they'll be going up on live on the podcast on Monday. But I guess now it's time for our other erstwhile great companion here, Chad Ramage, and Tech News.
So we'll cut now to the Tech News intro video.
Good afternoon, Lunatics, and thank you for your time tonight. I thought I would help everyone lighten their wallets a little bit before Christmas, yet hopefully save a few dollars in the process as well. I know we've just had Black Friday over in the States, which has come over to Australia now as well. This has always symbolised, at least as of late, the post-Thanksgiving and the start of the Christmas rush for spending. So before Christmas over here in Australia, let's have a look at some of the specials that you might be able to pick up now prior to Christmas, and again, hopefully save yourself a few dollars in the meantime. Again, no sponsorships here.
It's being very generous.
You love to give plugs to brands.
Just plugging everyone, really. So if you were thinking about picking up, say, a little drone or something before Christmas, DJI have got some stellar bits of hardware out there at the moment, ranging from $130 right up to $1,149. So from there, we've also got the Good Guys. They've got up to 30% off on some goods and in-store credit of up to $200. And there's a few shutting off just tonight. So if you are still looking for Christmas gifts and ideas for family and loved ones, make sure that you jump onto whether it's appliances online, Kogan, up to $400 off some Samsung devices, and up to $250 off an iPhone X. But what always ends up stealing my money this time of year is having a look at Steam or Green Man Gaming. So that's generally the shut up and take my money from, whether it be the Fallout universe or Borderlands, Assassin's Creed. There's plenty of gaming packages and things that you can pick up for family, friends, or loved ones you may want to see less of over the break.
Chad, other than plugging what you can buy at Christmas, what's going on in the landscape of Newcastle in the tech world?
I've got to say, the biggest thing for me over the weekend has obviously been the supercars. So that's been quite good, getting around and about around the foreshore, watching all of the cars flying around Watt Street, and accessibility-wise, it's actually quite good in there as well.
So you actually went in to see it, mate?
Yeah, so there's actually good lifts to get up and around into the precinct, and so whether it was bathrooms, inclines, or that kind of information around there, it was, fantastic.
Fantastic. And I was hoping to see Red Dead Redemption on your wish list, surely.
Oh, definitely. That has been one of the biggest of the last few weeks as well. It's been absolutely crazy. Right. So if you haven't picked that up yet, definitely get amongst it.
Well, Chad, thanks very much. You've been a great champion bringing us all the tech news, and we want to see you back here in 2019.
Love to see
exploring all
them.
those big themes and perhaps doing a few more plugs.
Cheers. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Chad. Up next, we'll be talking with Dan Farthing, who is the project coordinator for Hunter If. Hunter If is a new organisation here in the Hunter. Hang on. And Dan is kind of helping the team lead the way, connecting people and creating a platform for startups to really thrive. And here he is to tell us all about it, Mr. Dan Farthing.
Oh, good evening, and thanks
Welcome.
for having me.
Oh, it's great you could join us, mate. So there was a bit of a soft launch about 2 weeks ago or thereabouts.
Yeah, we had our soft launch a week ago on Friday at 8:04, which was just to announce the project that is kicking off and will be running over the next sort of 10 or 11 months. So, yeah, it was great. It was great to acknowledge the supporters who have got Hunter If this far, which has been a work in progress over the last sort of 2 or 3 years. So, yeah, it was great to kick that off.
So for those who haven't heard of Hunter If yet, can you give us a bit of background about what it is and where you hope to go?
Yeah, sure. So Hunter If is it's a not-for-profit organisation that has a series of people on the board from various organisations around the Hunter. Newcastle City Council, City of Newcastle, Lake Macquarie Council, University of Newcastle, the Business Centre, Department of Industry from a federal government point of view, and 804. Yeah, there's quite a few that have been involved, and it's come off the back of a bunch of work and research that's been done over the last few years. It was kicked off by Rob Olver and Sarah Pearson initially, with a couple of ideas that got the ball rolling, and that ended up in a group of people coming together from the Hunter Angels and Hunter Founders Forum, and a few others that got on board initially, and they rallied around and had a look at both the business and the innovation scene around the Hunter to put together some key stakeholders and get that ball rolling. And now we're here as an official not-for-profit organisation with a project and some funding to make some really cool stuff happen here in the Hunter.
So, and that funding in place is to support your role, but also a range of other activities around that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess it's important to acknowledge that up to date it has been very much volunteer time, and that enabled them to put together, or the founding team to put together a proposal and a project proposal to get some funding from the local innovation network, and a grant for that. And that has supported both, my role in a full-time capacity to put together a really great program for 2019.
Ooh.
And how is Hunter If going to work with other startups and other creators in the Hunter?
Yeah, so we're here as kind of an umbrella organisation, you could say, to both work with established industry and established stakeholders in the innovation ecosystem, to use a buzzword that's going around a lot. So both existing industry, creative industry, digital industry, startups, education and research, local government, and innovators and entrepreneurs who are in the region. And kind of bring those together, because together that's what equals an ecosystem. The early stage startups and entrepreneurs bring a lot of ideas to established business, and an established business brings a lot of experience to innovators and entrepreneurs, and all of the other aspects of that ecosystem support each other for us to really become a great region to be a startup. If you're well connected and you've got a good network, then this is a great place to be an innovator, an entrepreneur, to kick off your idea. Yeah.
I'm just interested in terms of, because I know the report that Sarah Pearson did looked at other places that are having that, but in your experience, what are the sort of standout regions that would sort of give you interest to have a look at how they've handled that incubation process? Because I think I say that by way of the last estimate I think of Ernst & Young report did, or PwC report, was there's about 62,000 incubators across the world currently operating, trying to do the very similar things. So there's a lot of noise there, and the whole innovation, it's a buzz and etc. But I'm just interested to cutting through that. What's your gut feel?
Yeah, sure. I guess there's a lot of examples. Both there's a few in Australia, but there's also a few around the world who of cities or regions that took innovation and as an opportunity to kind of put their region on the front foot in terms of economic development and growth. There's some examples in Canada. There's certainly some examples around Denver, Colorado, and those kind of places where they're really, they weren't a standout nationally, but they had the right ingredients to become a real innovation hub and a real opportunity of growth. In Australia, Brisbane has done a great job of fostering startups, especially in the tech sector. It's been very well supported by the state government there. So, there's lots of really rapid growth happening around the Brisbane startup scene. Sydney is obviously a really big hub, and there's lots of stuff going on there as well. I've had the experience of spending a few years around the Sydney tech startup scene, and I love the energy and vibrancy that you get from being in a community and a well-connected network of innovators and entrepreneurs. It's certainly a vibrant place to be. And the Hunter Research Foundation released their quarterly report just last week. And one of the real key things, it was around innovation, and one of the key things that we saw out of that report was the difference between an innovative region and a well-connected, really collaborative, innovative region, and the growth and the economic development is far higher in a region that's well-connected. So for Newcastle and the Hunter, we've got all the ingredients. We've got some great talent coming out of the university. We've got some really high quality product and service coming out of the established companies, even the new startups in the region. We've got good access to education. The local governments are starting to get on board this idea where we're seeing a lot of change, and we seem to be taking that change on. So we've got all the ingredients. Hunter If is here to try and bring those things together and really stake a claim to being a power player in the innovation.
Yeah. So just on that, because obviously the topic tonight is on influencers. How as an influential organisation are you helping startups find their voice or find investment? Like how are you guys planning to kind of problem solve the space?
Yeah, I think that there's a few aspects to that. The startups that are here in Newcastle, some of them are quite new, although they're really on an exciting trajectory to really make some pretty big waves both in Australia and internationally. I think what's really important from innovation in the Hunter region is we've got to acknowledge the fact that there's a lot of companies that have been innovative in their own industry for a very long time. We've got a really strong history and a strong economy that's been based around engineering and resources, and they're exporting and punching at a global level. They're exporting internationally top tier product and service. And that's great. We have to acknowledge the fact that those guys are really doing well and they're innovating in their own industry. So that's great. From a business point of view, we've got an awesome experience to leverage. But what we've also got is a lot of new, young, entrepreneurial people coming through who aren't tied to the traditional industries of this region. They're in tech, they're in all kinds of things, they're in financial services, whatever it might be. So that's really exciting because that has a very rapid growth and a real global scale. And we have the infrastructure here to make those things happen. So what are we doing to help those guys get a voice? Well, we're we've got a few projects on the go over the next few months around helping those, let's call them entrepreneurs, get the attention of investment. There's plenty of wealth in the region that's looking for opportunity for investment. So that's a double-edged sword of helping those entrepreneurs understand how to pitch and ready their business for investment, but also educating the wealth and money that's in the region on how to access these innovators and entrepreneurs, and find them and invest in them smartly. So that's going to be a huge part of what we do. But also putting on display and bringing to the attention of both people within the Hunter and outside of the great stuff that's already happening here. We are exporting digital product, digital services all over the world, and certainly at a level in Australia that's as good as anybody. So that's exciting. So I'm really excited to be able to bring the attention of those guys to.
This man is on fire. I mean, so all of that energy, that's fantastic. But obviously more hands are needed. So how people can get in contact with you guys and be a part of this process? Yeah.
So one of the key pieces of the puzzle for us is to really have our website. It's at the moment it's a very basic. It performs a very basic function of just saying, "Hey, we're here." But that'll become something that we put a lot of effort into over the coming months to become a hub of information and highlights of the great stuff that's happening around Newcastle, the great projects, the great innovation, the great opportunities to get on board incubators and co-working spaces and grants and all of that stuff that's here that makes Newcastle a great place to start or a great place to position your business. I should say the Hunter, it's not just about Newcastle. There's lots of exciting stuff happening in Lake Macquarie and the Hunter Valley and Nelson Bay as well. So
good save.
So there's a website.
So the website is one of the key things to that. Via there you can get in contact with us. You can see the events that's going on, that we are putting on, that we're supporting, that will get you involved and active in the networks that all this innovation is happening in.
Yeah.
So it's just
hunterif.com.au. Feel free to reach out to me. My email and contact details on the website. I would love to catch up and have a chat, let you know how you can get involved, let you know what's happening in the region for sure.
Well, Dan, thank you very much. Round of applause for Dan Farthing.
Thank you.
The new project manager for Hunter If.
I'm quite confident we'll see more of you and hear more from Hunter If in
Sounds good. Look forward to it. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you. We'll take a quick break, everyone, and we'll be back with Tracy McGillicott from new2you.com. Thanks.
Welcome to the Business Centre. My name's Paulina Mangano and I'm one of the business advisors here at the Business Centre. We've been doing what we do for over 34 years, and what we do is help business. Whether you're thinking of starting a business, if you like to scale up, if you like to go into a different direction, we're here to help. The first thing that we focus on is asking you, what is it that you want? We work out where you're at, and then we help you get there. So we've got all the tools that you need, and more importantly, we can sit with you and work out which tools are going to work best specifically for you. So there's no general template, there's no, this is what you do for every business, because I think, as we all know, there's no one fit. So we work out what works for you, and we're there to guide you along the way. So we'd love to see you at the Business Centre. We can help you with your business. We're not for profit, so you're our focus, and looking forward to seeing you. Thanks very much.
I'm majoring in leadership and management, and I've got a real focus on social innovation, as there's a push for businesses to be socially responsible. So 3 years ago I started a business called Eat Your Water. It's a surf brand that's come out of Newcastle, and we now sell essentially worldwide. I started it more so as a platform I could use to preach a sort of social conscience about marine conservation, thinking outside of just about profit. It's about thinking about the environment, people around you. There's a perception that starting in business is really difficult, but UON's resources and support really make it so much easier. Students from different ranges of backgrounds, and I guess bouncing those ideas off one another, it really helps when you collaborate. It just allows that process to be so much easier.
Watching, so we don't have to. Yeah, he's one producer.
Welcome back. This is the Lunatics Live, episode 16, coming to you from the Foghorn Brewhouse here in King Street, Newcastle. And welcome back. And it's a really great buzz and wonderful. Just by way of some of the audio issues we've had, internally, our playback, or what you're seeing on the live stream, is not being actually heard here, but it is going out there, folks. So, but joining us here, and our next interview subject is Tracy McKilligod. Welcome, Tracy.
Thank you for having me.
So your job at the moment, you've started up with new2uw.com.
.com, yes.
So it's a digital radio.
It is. It's digital. So it's actually not digital. It's internet radio. So it goes via, obviously, either the stream on the internet or via Apple or Google Play. It's not digital per se, as you know, many of our US friends would be aware of. It's completely internet based.
Can I naively ask you, what does that mean by not digital but internet?
Digital is actually a license. So you now have digital licenses. You have AM and FM licenses. Digital is a license. We don't actually operate under a license. We're just a streaming station. We don't come under the Broadcasting Corporation. We don't actually come under any of those laws and regulations yet.
Yes.
And you guys run, so I found it really interesting, you guys run as a subscriber-based radio station, all focused on local for Newcastle.
Yep.
What does that mean for you guys? Like, is there a certain number that you need to hit, or?
No, look, the good thing about digital radio or internet radio is that the covering of our costs is a very, very small base. So you don't have the ridiculous transmitter fees. We don't have the incredibly large APRA fees because we only have a lot smaller audience. So we don't have to cater to the 650,000 or the million people. We're only catering to that very small line. So the actual cost of being able to operate what we operate is quite smaller. Yes. So it's just when everybody else is leaving the market. And they are leaving the market, whether we talk the Herald, whether we talk Prime, whether we talk KOFM is no longer in existence. Everybody's leaving the market. And at a time when globalization is at its peak, we're actually more in a state of wanting localism. So we're crying out for localism. We have phenomenal numbers of people who are listening to us in the UK, in France, in New Zealand, in Canada. And it's locals who want to hear the news of their own place. They want to hear what's happening at home, and it's quite amazing. It's as I said, in the age of globalism, we want more and more localism.
Can you give us some insight? Like, what are your fans saying? Like, because I imagine Newcastle would love this.
Yes, they do, and we've got this fancy little marketing document because obviously that's my area of expertise. But we're getting everything from it's great to have Carol back, and welcome back Dunks. Through to, obviously, I have a sports focus in a lot of what I do, so as well as a news and current affairs focus, I have very much a sports focus. So I'm always copying, come on, McKelligott, can we drop back the sport, or can we have more sport? Or and look, they love David Sayers. We're all very, very different markets. So David Sayers, obviously, is an ex-2NC broadcaster, ex-ABC broadcaster, has been on the air for a zillion years. So he's got his own market, whereas Carol Duncan has a very, very different market entirely. The Rock Gods in the afternoon, Tinson and Pickett, they have a completely different market all over again. So we're all going for very, very different markets. But the wonderful thing is the demographics. So where we're at our strongest is actually the 45 to 54, which is great. It means that our audience aren't hitting to dead, which is good, the 65 pluses. So the audience we're hitting is an audience that is a little bit more savvy. They know what they want. They've got disposable income. They are an intelligent listener. that's I suppose where each of us are heading in our own different areas.
Which is the big departure, because other radio stations have always had that particular focus brand, key demographics, they focus on that. And even if they range across, say, a 24-hour cycle, they're still bringing that. And the key is to try and bring that audience into the next show. But your show is very different, because people want to listen to David, are not necessarily going to be listening to Carol, and vice versa.
But the amazing thing is, I mean, obviously the difference with what we do and a normal radio station is we actually get our figures every 10 minutes, every 15 minutes. We know exactly how we're tracking and exactly who's listening and who's not listening and who's carried through into what shifts. So we're learning a lot quicker than the others. We don't have to wait for the survey for 6 weeks. We know straight away who's carried through into our shows. We know what music we've played that day and what's carried them through into Carol's show or into my show from David's. So we've got all the data sitting there, which is something very different. It's something that radio is not used to. The surveys have just come out, I think it was Friday. The traditional radio surveys have come out. Now, we don't have to wait for that period of time. We already know what our cumes are. We already know what our unique listeners are. We know what their demographics are. So we have that advantage that we already know what's working and what's not working. And we're only, this was our 8th week. And, we're cuming numbers that are the equivalent of some of our FM compatriots,
Wow. So with data, does that mean you can not only track your audience, but then maybe start refining content to focus in?
Yes. We use a company called a digital platform called RadioCo, and it is it's a digital radio that comes out of Manchester, and. As they grow, we grow, as they learned how to hone in more. I mean, we know exactly how many people listen to us on smartphones. We know exactly how many listen to us on Apple television. So we know at any one time exactly how they're listening, for how long they're listening, and as I said, what device they're listening to us on, how long they've spent listening to this time. But we also know the unique listeners. So we know that we've got at least 13,000 regular listeners. And we've got about 58,000 who are sampling us on a fairly regular basis. So it's not bad for an 8-week-old company.
Not bad at all.
So can we tell the advertisers that?
Well, but just cycling back then, so given your background, you came from a traditional kind of legacy media industry.
Yep.
Long experience that, both in a metropolitan market but also regional markets.
Yep.
In many ways, you're in a brilliant position to have that conversation about influencing.
Yeah.
So what's your gut feeling about this space where the traditional influencers are now shuffling off the board, so to speak?
Yeah.
And there's this new breed coming through.
And I mean, look, being female and young in this city is hard enough as it is. And as it's, I'm now 45. I'm now I'm starting to get up to the men. I'm not there yet, but I'm starting to get up into the old boys club. But it's really at a stage now that what I'm doing is so much more above what a lot of them are doing and what's being understood. And I mean, I don't need to tell you guys this. The tech geniuses are 21, they're 22. My 11-year-old knows how to use the Apple Mac better than I do. I think the influencers are going to become younger and younger and younger. I think that goes without saying. What does concern me, and it is something that has hit me again today between the eyes, is that the traditional influencer still has some power. So the fact that we are 8 weeks old, we don't know about you, you're only on social media, we don't want to advertise with you. Now, to me, that's old school. I don't understand that. That's the fact, you'll do bread and butter advertising and that's it. I'm sorry, but that's not the way the world's going. So it is the old school influencer, this traditional influencer, they're still there. And we've just got to somehow figure out a way to bash it out of them in the most polite way.
So, just to interject on that, isn't the idea of subscription-based platforms to weed out the advertising and the big need for advertising?
I don't think you will never weed out the need for advertising. We're very lucky; we have a very small base. We don't need a great deal to turn over each and every day. But I don't think we'll ever see advertising completely go. Well, I hope we won't. My background is public relations, and a public relations campaign backs up advertising, backs up PR, vice versa. I hope we never see the day that we don't need advertising in some form, because I think some of our greatest cultural assets have actually come through advertising. You've got your Vegemite, you've got your aeroplane jelly. We all know them. I hope we never lose that, if that makes sense and answers you. I don't think we'll ever get to the day where there is no advertising. Look, I'm the same. I hate when I sit there and I go to watch a television, on 9 Now. And it really frustrates the hell out of me that I have to sit there for 2 minutes. But it pays for my television programming, so yeah.
I make my living out of advertising. I don't need it to go away. It's just I think it's just an interesting way to debate, like the future landscape of online platforms, and because I know some platforms really don't want to have advertising as their foundation, and they really want the users to build and grow, and so I just think it's an interesting way to consider where technology is and what we want it to do, and how, as as innovators, how you want to run your business and let that go. It's really an open playing field. If I
absolutely, and look, that is the beautiful thing about the new TUW.com, is that we do have an open platform. We only run 60 seconds of ads, one in the first half hour and one in the second half hour. So there is only 60 seconds in each half hour. That's it. There's no more. So you're not going to be bombarded by the Harvey Norman style advertising. Where the advertising comes into play is on the multi-platform. So it comes in on the Facebook pages, on the repackaging of our programs, on the digital recording of our programs. That's where I really do see that we're going to be able to do branded, the old traditional Pepsi can sitting in the corner. We'll be able to do some of the native style of advertising.
Yeah, that's cool. Maybe some Newcastle brands can jump on board, huh?
That would be great.
Maybe we can list a couple. Put some pressure
So
on.
in terms of your lineup of presenters, who do we have?
So we have David Sayers in the morning, so Breakfast of Champions.
And what time's that at?
So David's from 6 till 9.
Okay.
And within that, you also had the legendary Michael Blaxland, who is well known to everybody.
So he's the news director.
He's the news director.
He's also our producer
and
as well.
I'm lucky enough that he produces the L plater in the office. He produces me. I'm on from 9 till 12, and my program is really I'm more of the current affairs. I'm more the interviews. We do at least 2 interviews to 3 interviews an hour. Over the last 8 weeks, we've done 250 interviews. So yeah, which is great. That's what I love. I don't like talking. I'm sure you can see that. I don't like talking at all. At all. Then we have Carol Duncan, obviously ex-ABCer. We brought Carol back, and that was a big coup, to bring Carol Duncan out of retirement and bring her back into radio world. That was pretty significant. That was a big coup for us. And then we've obviously got Steve Pickett and Mark Tinson are our drive boys. And then we've got Craig Rosevere. He does our Friday midday to 1 o'clock with a special segment. But we've got lots more. We've got Scott Bevan, who's basically our fix-it man. If one of us is sick, if one of us has gone down, if one of us is going on holidays, Scott Bevan is our backup. Right. Yeah, so we've got a pretty significant lineup. I'm some of the regulars that I've got on my program. I'm so lucky. I've worked for 25 odd years in this industry and in this city, and I'm very lucky. Some of the people that I can call friends and that I can just pick up the telephone to, they've all been so supportive, and not just of me, across the board to everybody. It's very Novocastrian, shall we say?
So your start time is 6 in the morning.
We run live from 6 o'clock through until 6 o'clock. As from in the next couple of weeks, we will start doing disco 80s. So the 80s will go from 6 o'clock in the evening through until about 8 or 9 o'clock. So that means that we will be the only station that is running from 6 a.m. We are the only one running from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. live and local at the moment, but then we will be running 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. So no one else is doing it. There is a hole, and there is a niche, there is a need, and we are filling it, and it's as simple as that.
Well, that's wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I wish you all the best. Week 9 is next.
God help us. I don't know what's next. I'm like, ah.
So a round of applause there for Tracy McKillicott.
Thank you, Tracy.
From the new 2uw.com. And that's where you can go to the website?
Yes, if you go to the website, new2uw.com, or if you go to the app, the Apple app, or Google Play, we're all there.
Great.
We're on iTunes. I tuned in. There, you can tell I'm the tech chick, yeah.
Well, I think we can have a greater conversation about the whole notion of the influence, because I think you raised some really important questions. Thank you very much, Tracy.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Thank you.
You're with Lunatics Live here at the Foghorn.
We're just going to cut to an ad break, and we'll be back with Brendan Swansborough from Enigma.
Thank you.
Advisors here at the Business Centre. We've been doing what we do for over 34 years, and what we do is help business. Whether you're thinking of starting a business, if you'd like to scale up, if you'd like to go into a different direction, we're here to help. The first thing that we focus on is asking you, what is it that you want? We work out where you're at, and then we help you get there. So we've got all the tools that you need, and more importantly, we can sit with you and work out which tools are going to work best specifically for you. So there's no general template, there's no, this is what you do for every business, because I think, as we all know, there's no one fit. So we work out what works for you, and we're there to guide you along the way. So we'd love to see you at the Business Centre. We can help you with your business. We're not for profit, so you're our focus, and looking forward to seeing you. Thanks very much.
I'm majoring in leadership and management, and I've got a real focus on social innovation, as there's a push for businesses to be socially responsible. So 3 years ago I started a business called Eat Your Water. It's a surf brand that's come out of Newcastle, and we now sell essentially worldwide. I started it more so as a platform I could use to preach a sort of social conscious about marine conservation, thinking outside of just about profit. It's about thinking about the environment, people around you. There's a perception that starting a business is really difficult, but your end's resources and support really make it so much easier. Students from different ranges of backgrounds, and I guess bouncing those ideas off one another, it really helps when you collaborate. It just allows that process to be so much easier.
Welcome back to Lunatics Live, the final episode for 2018, and this evening we are talking about influencers in the digital space. Right now, we have Brendan Swansborough from Enigma, who was also a Newey Award winner this year.
And very excited he was too, with your crew. It was some great stuff there, mate.
Yeah, group of legends. Thanks for having us. Thanks for having me tonight, and thanks for having us a couple of months ago as well.
So we're going to grill you about the influencers, because one of your experiences has been that you worked in the US as well. But just tell us a little bit about Enigma now, because I used to work as a casual producer many, many years ago, but it's kind of changed and morphed into a different type of beast now.
Yeah, I feel like I've been working at Enigma now for 2 years. Prior to that, I worked at a few different agencies in Sydney and New York. So I worked at Saatchi & Saatchi, was my first agency in Sydney for a couple of years, working on brands like Two's New and Cadbury. Then I took a year off, went to New York and worked there for 3 years, working at an agency called Anomaly on Budweiser. And then came back to Sydney, did a couple of years working at Leo Burnett on the Samsung account. And then, I just kind of got the LinkedIn message from Pete Chapman, my now boss, enticing me back to Newcastle to work at Enigma. And it was the best thing to happen to me, I think, lifestyle-wise and career-wise. It's been fantastic.
That's really great. Welcome back to the town.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Loving it.
So that's so odd, because everyone's either, we have the impression the constant cant is, I've got to leave, I've got to go, but you've come back, so that's really...
Yeah, I mean, I did. There was a girl involved, I have to say, being honest. But It was honestly the best decision ever. And I think Enigma, I know like where it's at right now as an agency. It's just going from strength to strength. You can feel it every day. You can feel it when you walk into the office that there's just that vibe that we're doing something right, and it's just got the momentum, a lot like Newcastle right now.
Yeah, that's a really nice analogy. When I moved to Newcastle 7 years ago now, one of the fun things that I discovered about Newcastle is that there's all these amazing people kicking goals and doing things that you might not necessarily expect. And I think we're really sitting at this really great time where, this is why we have the Lunatics Live, because of so many innovators and people making noise. So it's a really great analogy that you feel like Enigma's stepping up at that level, making noise. And so I guess that's a nice segue for us to discuss your involvement with the McDonald Jones Homes campaign. That was the one that won the Lunatics. Yep. Let's talk about that when it comes to brand and influencers and digital innovation.
Yeah, I think that campaign is something that was a real pleasure to work on, and that came from a wanting to do something big and show that they were more than just a builder. And the lengths that they went to and the risks that they took in order to execute that campaign, where they went out and used that was an actual real scenario. And I think some people didn't get that from the concept and from the execution, but they were real customers. And at the end of that spot, he actually had no idea what was about to happen. And so huge lengths it went to actually execute that. And at the end of the day, it just all goes back to we couldn't have done that without McDonald Jones.
Yeah. So Brendan, just for those viewers and anyone here who hasn't seen them, just can you briefly describe what is the scenario?
Yeah, so I guess just to take a step back from that, it was a culmination of about a year and a half of strategic development around digging deep into McDonald Jones' new core proposition, which was the first time that it went live, and that the McDonald Jones tagline, "Find yourself at home." And what we drilled down into as a brand is that McDonald Jones is all about smartly designed places that transform the way you live. And so it took a year and a half to get to that point, working with some really smart people and working really closely with McDonald Jones. And then the creative brief that fell out of that, and the idea was, we decided to really try and capture in a real way that moment of coming home and what coming home means to you. And that there's no moment quite like that, like a McDonald Jones home. So what we did is we decided to find someone who, a McDonald Jones customer who has to work away from home a lot, and isn't as home with his family as much as he'd like. And then we took his favourite room in the home, and then we recreated it and took that room to him while he was working off-site. And he had no idea it was happening. He knew that we were filming him and his family, and he thought it was just for, we said it was, we made up some excuse, some lie for why we were doing it. And then, it was a total surprise. One day he just shows up on site. He used to work on the power lines, dangerous job. And there's his son's bedroom, and he walked in and, was just totally shocked to find his son's room there, and then had his son walk into the room. And it was a real special moment. And it was a real moment that it wasn't, we only shot it once. And it took a lot of work went into manufacturing that. And McDonald Jones, the effort working with their team to recreate that room perfectly. It was a special spot.
And when you think about it, that's an extraordinary gamble, given that you don't have the control that traditionally you have when you're producing television commercials.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was scary in that regard, and it was a big risk from the client. So hats off to them for having the courage to do it. And I think the results speak for themselves when you look at the amount of views that it got online and shares and that sort of thing.
Yeah, so I guess it's hands down a beautiful ad, and I remember when I saw it for the first time, and I was really excited by it. So can you just talk a little bit more about, because we really love what innovation means and what that looks like in practice. So what has that campaign done for the brand? Is there anything you can talk about with innovation that, whether it was released on social and you saw more views than expected, or what digital influencing things could you comment on?
I think that we as part of Enigma, we're a strategic and creative agency, but we also have a media agency. And it's actually the first time since I've worked in advertising that we've worked together, and I've worked at an agency that has media integrated. And I think that was a real difference between the success of this campaign and everything that I work on at Enigma, is that I'm working with a media department headed up by Justin Ladmore, who just actually really cares about the creativity and the work that goes into it, and working together to make sure that there's no wastage and the media mix is perfect for what it is that we're trying to execute.
That's rare these days.
It's very rare.
Yeah.
It's very rare, and we're very fortunate to have that. Just breaking down the barriers, so often you'll be working on big brands. I'll be working with media agencies who almost have a bit of an ulterior motive sometimes. You still have good relationships, but it's not like you're in the same building. I can just walk over them and have a conversation and kind of make sure we're doing things right. So they were involved at every step of the process, right through. Like he was sitting, Justin Ladmore, the head of our media agency, was sitting in the reviews, the film reviews, and his input was instrumental in what the final output was. And you've seen the final film, but there was also a bunch of cut downs, bespoke digital assets that we created off the back of that led to the success of the campaign, and just to make sure that whether people are watching it on whatever platform, that they're going to engage with it. So that it's not all necessarily like a long film 2-minute piece.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I guess at the heart of that also now in this space is, and what everyone's the buzzword is, data and metadata. How important is that to how you now evolve and progress a program and a campaign?
I mean, it's absolutely crucial. And again, having those guys in-house and all the tools that they have from a media point of view, in all the real-time dashboards and everything that they create from when we push a campaign live, we're all looking at those daily and optimising campaigns based on what the learnings are and how things are performing. So, we've got a lot of property clients at Enigma, and it's a bit of a speciality of ours, and a big part of the reason why more property clients keep coming and wanting to work with us is because we have that data and we utilise it just to make sure that we're optimising campaigns and doing things right. And the making sure that we've got the media guys who are buying the media are involved from the initial briefing right through to the development of the creation of assets, so that their input is going to make sure that we're following their best practices and from what they've seen work from past campaigns. And then as a campaign's going live, measuring it in real time, and then if something's not working, trying to work out why, and then what we can do to change it and optimise it so that we're getting the best results.
I'm really interested in, from an advertising point of view, where you see the future of brand and advertising when it comes to brands. And is there any difference in your experience between what you're doing in the US compared to Australia?
I think it speaks a little bit to.
I think that's Greg. Greg's ringing.
That's okay.
My apologies, folks. Sorry.
You owe the audience a drink.
Yeah, drink to the audience.
Well, look, I think when it comes to brand, and I don't know, I still think that the idea of really having a really sound strategic understanding of a brand and doing the hard work up front is always going to be important. Digital as a channel is obviously becoming more and more important, but it's still another channel that's in the media mix, and it still works best when it's used in combination in the right way with other media channels. I'm a real big believer in Peter Field and his way of thinking and the long and short of it and all that type of thing. I'm a big subscriber to that and really look for their effectiveness reports every year. And I think brand is only going to become more important. If you look at proper brand building and what that whole 60-40 mix, I think that's timeless and that it's been like that for years. And as if you're always speaking 60% brand, 40% to retail and product, then you get it, and across all channels, and that brand building, you're going to see a positive effect and positive brand uplift and direct correlation to sales. So, I personally, I just love doing good work that's backed like real human insights that ladder up to the brand, and just having the time to be able to work with the creative guys and our strategists to craft really solid work and campaigns that are going to connect with people in an emotional way. And I don't think it matters if you're talking TV, out of home, whatever. If you're doing that and you're putting all those values first and you're putting the brand first, then you can't go wrong.
What out there at the moment, what brands do you think are doing it right when you talk about that?
Yeah. I think there's a few brands that I really like that inspire me. I think Airbnb is really good. I'm a big fan of theirs, and I've used them for a long time. I think and I don't know, this is just top of mind now, but something a brand, if we're talking about a brand that transcends, I think, different media channels, and is John Lewis. And if you saw their most recent spot that just came out, every year they do a Christmas spot. They just did the Elton John one. I mean, we had a big debate internally about, what is that? Is that a TV idea? Is it a digital idea? Because it clearly had millions of shares within days, and I think it's a brand idea, and that they've just got onto a good winning formula with that, and they keep doing it. And I mean, yeah, I worked on Budweiser for a few years. I worked on a couple of Super Bowl spots, and just kind of seeing firsthand, that sort of brand-led, having brand-led pieces of work like that go out, and the effect that can have, and how it resonates with people.
Yeah, cool. Obviously, a lot of our audience are tech and innovation. What are your top tips for marketing for startups?
Sorry to put you on the spot there.
So for startups, I think it's just I think you just need to go out and speak to people that understand brand and that understand how like marketers really. If you're a startup and you don't have the resources available to you to go and speak to an Enigma, then that's fine, and I'm sure a lot don't. But there is so many like we were talking about earlier with Hunter If. There's so many talented and amazing agencies within Newcastle that I would be willing to help you, and that at different levels. So I think anything that you can do to upskill in that area and make sure that you're marketing yourself and telling people about yourself, and not keep that as a secondary thing, is so important. Like, I was reading an article the other day that one of the biggest regrets that a lot of startups have is that they didn't invest enough time and energy into marketing themselves at those early stages. I see this a lot, and with people that I speak to who are in startups, it's one of their biggest regrets. You get so caught up on what you're doing on a daily level, on a daily basis, that you're not really prioritising that. And I think it's a bit of a shame. It's a real missed opportunity. Yeah.
Okay, so the natural question then is, how can they contact you?
Yeah, I mean, if you do want to come and chat to Enigma, then fantastic, and we'll do everything we can to help you. So you can reach out to us through our website, so enigma.net.au. I think our CEO, Lisa Sutton-Gardner, she takes all new business requests. She just loves doing that. She always has. And then she'll put you in touch with whoever makes the most sense for us to have a chat with you about. But, yeah.
Awesome. That's all we have time for. Thank you so much for giving us insight into the marketing universe. Brendan, before we wrap up, do you have any words of wisdom? Any final thoughts? It's the last show for 2018.
Last show for 2018.
2018. We will be back 2019.
Oh, nice. Yeah, look, I don't know. I think there's something I always crap on about to my team, and I think it does their head in probably, and because I'm always going on about it, and it's something that I took from the agency I worked at in New York, and they always used to have this saying that, this George Bernard Shaw quote, I don't know if you know it, and it's kind of like their mantra that the reasonable man adapts himself onto the world, the unreasonable man adapts the world unto himself. Yes. Therefore, progress relies on the unreasonable man. Yeah, I say that because like when I'm carrying on like a bit of like being really unreasonable, I don't know if it's like a bit of a scapegoat for myself, but I don't know. I think that mentality is so true, and I think if you kind of carry that with you, then there's nothing you can't do.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Brendan.
Probably a great way to go. Well, thanks very much. That's and a big round of applause there for Brendan for joining us from a Group Account Director at Enigma. So, 2018. Thanks very much, everyone. Big shout out to all the supporters and sponsors here. Lunatics Live coming to you from the Brewhouse, King House. No, sorry. from the Foghorn
Brewhouse. And a big shout out to all those who have attended live and online throughout the year. We greatly appreciate your support. We do have the AGM coming up, so if there are any thoughts that you would like to put towards us, come along, have a beer, and let's just plot out an awesome 2019.
Thanks very much for joining us. And don't forget, check out the Hunter If project and their website, but also we'll be doing our membership call and our AGM coming up on December 8th. Thank you very much, everyone. Appreciate it. A big shout out to all the guys who are supporting us tonight. We couldn't do it without you. Thank you.
Thank you.